The Patriot Way. It's not a term they use themselves, but rather conceals the dynasty's very foundation. Ruthless acumen, contempt for convention, and now as ever, an empire built on players no one really wanted.
Bill says it every year during training camp. He doesn't care who you are, where you're from, how much money you make, what your contract says. If you can help this organization win football games, then you'll be here.
It may not be the normal system of how to evaluate a player. Like the old saying, some guys' trash is other people's treasures.
Edelman under center.
Julian Edelman was an undersized quarterback from Kent State.
Touchdown!
A lot of teams were interested to see, what I could possibly do, but no one pulled the trigger.
Belichick talked to you after he drafted you?
Yeah. I remember like it's yesterday. His right-hand man said, we picked you 232, and he put Bill on the phone, and Bill said, we don't know what you're going to play, but you can play football. We'll see you at minicamp.
Rob Ninkovich, a fifth-rounder out of Purdue, was cut by the Dolphins and the Saints.
When I was in New Orleans, they said, the only way you're going to make this team is as a long snapper. That's verbatim of what I was told.
The pocket collapses, and a sack for Rob Ninkovich.
There is no ceiling put on someone when they get here. They create their own.
The names may change, but the roles do not.
I remember walking in there and seeing that 50 was my number, and I just told myself, honor the things that old 50 was able to do here.
Old 50, Mike Vrabel, spent 4 years in Pittsburgh and never started a game. Made first-team All-Pro in New England, where has-beens are reborn. 3 starts with Miami, 5 Pro Bowls with New England. A 7-year starter who never played college football. It's a dynasty whose princes were undrafted,
It's intercepted by Malcolm Butler.
unwanted,
Randy Moss on his way from Oakland to New England.
and most famously, unheralded.
I've always told myself, if you ever get this opportunity, because you never know how many you're going to get. And when you do get your opportunity, you better be ready to take it in.
What does it mean knowing that this is a team that's led by a 6th-rounder?
I think it's a great thing. It shows the undrafted free agent, the Malcolm Butlers. It doesn't matter what happened in the past.
In fact, the past does matter, as all roles are reprised. The real Patriot prototype is unknown in August and famous in February.
So I've been into a few of these games, and you never know who's going to make a play.
Cross 2 decades from Brady to Butler, a procession of the unlikeliest heroes. That, too, is the Patriot Way.
All right, Super Bowl Sunday. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. It's one of the highest calorie intake days of the year. I mean, think about it. There are going to be people all across the globe today sitting on couches, stuffing their faces, watching a bunch of grown men in colorful spandex push one another around on a field. That's why I play basketball. I mean, football is just a weird thing. But it's now, I know some of you aren't into sports, let alone football, and I get that. That's okay. We're not going to get too far into the sports thing this morning. I live it. I mean, my wife Lisa is not into sports all that much. In fact, the last time I took her to an NBA game, one of her friends said, "I didn't really know you were into basketball," and she said, "I'm not. I just go for a hot dog and a selfie, and then I'm good to go. I got all I need to get from there." So I get it. Not everybody's into sports, especially football, and that's not a big deal. Today isn't some big, exposition on the game of football or the Super Bowl. But I do think, however, that it's really timely that the last message in this series just happened to fall on Super Bowl Sunday. And I think that because as we talk about where we're going as a church and what we're trying to build and what we're trying to do, I can't help but think of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. I mean, I know they love him or hate him, and if you're not into football, it's okay. But what the Patriots have done in the last 2 decades in and to the NFL is remarkable. I mean, they basically defined or redefined success. I mean, it's been amazing. And the Patriots are known to have what's called, as you heard, the Patriot Way. And many of us would say it's cheating. But the Patriots have some of you got that, the Patriot Way. And the Patriot Way is, again, it's their own thing. It's what's said about them. And Tom Brady really embodies the Patriot Way. He embodies what they're all about. You think of someone like Tom Brady, who started out at the University of Michigan, and then in the year 2000 was drafted in the 6th round. So think about that. Every team in the NFL went around the table 6 times before somebody said, we'll take Tom Brady. And so the Patriots ended up with him. And because of where he went in the draft, he is considered to be the greatest steal in all of sports, not just the NFL, but all of sports. In his 17 years as a starter, he has led the New England Patriots to the Super Bowl 9 times. Okay, he is one of only 2 quarterbacks to win the Super Bowl in their first year as a starter. He's one of only 2 players in the NFL to win 5 Super Bowls. And at the age of 41, this is crazy, at the age of 41, when most players in the NFL have long since retired, Tom Brady and the New England Patriots are going to be playing in their 3rd straight Super Bowl today. I mean, it's amazing when you think of who he is and all that the team has done. And Tom Brady is considered by many, now it's a debate, but he's considered by many to be the greatest quarterback of all time, if not the greatest football player of all time. But the odd thing, the interesting thing is he's not paid as such. I mean, it's amazing to me that when I looked at the statistics, Tom Brady has never been in the top 10 of NFL salaries. Why is that? I mean, it's not that he hasn't earned it, and it's certainly not because he doesn't deserve it. I mean, he's done everything. He's accomplished everything. He's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Why isn't he paid as such? It's because Tom Brady, year after year, has chosen to take less so that his team can get more. Because Tom Brady values winning, and he is committed, he is dedicated to doing whatever is in his power to do to help his team win. It's amazing. So much so that one of his former teammates, when interviewed and asked about what it's like to be a Patriot, he said the following. He said, I had one of my best years my 3rd season. I'd been playing off the charts, and I didn't get picked to go to the Pro Bowl, which is their Super Bowl, their All-Star game. He said, I was moping around, actually in tears, and a few guys were trying to lift me up. It's going to be all right, man. It's going to be all right. So you imagine in a locker room, these guys just like, man, it's all right, man. It's all right. Everything's going to be okay. But then Brady walks up to me and says, hey, B, you think I played this game to go to Pro Bowls? Get it together. Get your head up. We're trying to win rings. That's what it is here. And that's when I knew what kind of environment I was in and how blessed I was. So the Patriots have this way, the Patriot way. And so everybody on the team, they've built a dynasty. They've been able to accomplish all these accolades as a team because as a team, they recognize that their going together is far greater than anything they could experience or achieve on their own as individuals. And so over the last few weeks as a church, we've been talking about where we're going. We've been looking out the windshield to our tomorrow with the hopes that we would carpool, that we would go together, that we would all get to our tomorrow together. And if for some reason or another you missed any parts of this series, I would encourage you to go to our webpage at bridgechurches.ca and watch the first 3 messages in this series, because really this whole series is one message broken up over 4 weeks. So week 1 was kind of the introduction. Week 2 and 3 were really the meat and the scriptural support background, kind of why we're doing what we're doing and why we're going to where we're going. And today is going to kind of serve as the conclusion. So if you missed any other parts of this series, really encourage you to go to our webpage and check those out. And what we said throughout this series, for those of you that missed any part of it, we basically said that our destination isn't to win Super Bowls, obviously, okay? Our destination, where we're going, is to try to accomplish the mandate that Jesus commissioned us to years and years and years ago. And it was simply this, to go and make disciples. So Jesus commissioned the church that this was our goal, this was our end game, this was the end zone for us, was to go and make disciples, to make followers of Jesus Christ. Now in the NFL, every NFL team has a strategy, every NFL team has a philosophy as to how they're going to win the Super Bowl. And as a church, we have our own strategy, we have our own way of doing things in order to accomplish this mandate. We've got our own philosophy, and we're not saying that our way is the only way. And we're not saying as a church, we're not dogmatic enough to say that our way is the right way. We're simply saying it's our way. And for us as a church, we've said that our mission is to build irresistible bridges between Jesus Christ and those who are unchurched or dechurched. Meaning that we exist, everything we do is done through the lens of trying to build a bridge between Jesus and those people who are unchurched, those people who have never been to church in their life, or those folks who are dechurched in our communities, those people who went to church at some point in their life, but for one reason or another have walked away from the church and have walked away from their faith. Everything that we do is done to try to help build a bridge between Jesus and those people, to give them an opportunity to connect, or in some cases reconnect, with Jesus. And we said that one of the ways we're going to do that is we're going to focus on being a storytelling church. That we're going to focus in on being a storytelling church because stories are incredibly powerful. Stories carry a lot of weight in our lives. Stories fuel our faith. Stories fuel our hope, fuel our belief. And we said that every single one of us in this room, and for those of you that are watching online, every single one of us, every day of our life, is living another page in the story of our life. And it's a story that one day you're going to tell. That someday you're going to be sitting across the table over lunch or over coffee, and you're going to be sharing with your story, because in that moment, the person across from you is going to need to hear your story. Not one of my sermons, but they're going to need to hear your story. And so the question that we want to keep ringing in the back of your mind as you live your life is, when that moment comes, what's the story that I want to tell? When that moment comes where that person needs to hear your story, what's the story that you want to tell? As a church, we want to help you live the story that in that moment you'll want to tell. I was reminded of how powerful this is just in this last week. I was down at the Civic Hospital meeting with a young man who was involved in that tragic bus accident that happened in our city not that long ago. I was sitting across from this young man who had just lost one of his legs, and his other leg is severely damaged. He has severe nerve damage. And in this moment, I was sitting with he and his wife and both of their parents, and I'm talking to this young man, and I'm sharing this idea with him. That as difficult as it is in this circumstance, and you know this in whatever season of life you've been in, whatever tragedy you've been through, whatever difficult time you've experienced, in that moment it's so hard to see beyond it. And I get that, and we were talking about his situation and where he was at in his life. And I was encouraging him that he's in this moment writing another page, another chapter in the story of his life, and it's a story that one day he's going to tell. And that some way, even though he couldn't see it in the moment, and I completely understand that God is going to use this story. And he's going to use you to tell it. And as we were talking about this idea, this young man broke down and was in tears. And he said, Scott, it's amazing that you're even saying that, because ever since I got into this hospital bed, ever since I've been in here, and as long as I've been in here, I keep thinking about that guy who shared his story at the bridge on Remembrance Day. Now, for those of you that weren't here this past Remembrance Day, we were fortunate enough to have a young man named Sean who serves in our armed forces, who was overseas on tour, and while he was on tour, the vehicle that he was in exploded. And everyone in the vehicle except for him was killed, and he experienced some awful physical, hurts and pains. He went through a difficult season physically and emotionally, and he came back, and as he was sharing his story with us, he was telling us about what Jesus has done in his life and what Jesus has done in the life of his family. And while he couldn't see it the day his vehicle blew up, and he probably couldn't see it the moment he was on this stage telling his story, months later, as I'm sitting in a hospital bed, this young man who had just lost a leg, his faith is fueled. His hope is fueled. His belief is strong that because Jesus did something in Sean's life, maybe he'll do something in his life. He didn't need to hear a sermon in that moment, because he was reminded of a story he heard, and stories are incredibly powerful, and more people will come looking for Jesus as we tell more and more stories of what he's doing in our life. So we're going to focus on being a storytelling church. And one of the ways that we're going to do this is as we focus in on our ministries, that through our ministries, we're going to try to help you live the story that you want to tell, that all of our ministries will be focused and interconnected. Our staff and our leadership will be connected, and we'll see that everything doesn't operate in silos. That we go together, we work together, that everything is connected, and in turn, each one of us is connected. And so we'll go together. Now, the interesting thing is going together doesn't mean doing everything. Going together doesn't mean doing everything. And this is where churches, this is where organizations of any kind, this is where we get hung up. This is where gridlock happens on the highway. Because you can't say yes to everything. And you can't do everything and do everything well. And you know this in your home, right? I mean, the more you say yes to as a family, the more the people you value the most suffer, right? You can't say yes to everything in your home, and we can't say yes to everything in a business, and as a church, we can't say yes to everything. And so what we need to discover and what we need to depend on is that sometimes in church and in your life, we need to say no to some good things. That doesn't mean the things we say no to are bad. Sometimes we have to say no to good things in order to say yes to the things that we've chosen to focus on, because the things that we've identified are the most important to us as we try to accomplish our mission and our vision. And so sometimes we'll say no to some good things in order to say yes to the things that we value and focus on the most. Now, we as a church have said that we focus on 5 things, that there are 5 areas of ministry that the Bridge focuses on, and we want to do everything we can to do all those 5 things with excellence. And I want to share them with you this morning. Many of you have heard these and know these already. But the first one is obviously our Sunday morning services. Duh, we're in here, right? So clearly this is something. And the interesting thing about ministry is every Monday morning, I'm like, Sunday's coming. Sunday's coming, right? Sunday services are over, Sunday's coming. There's this monotony of Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, and it's easy to get caught up in the routine, but we want to make sure that our Sunday mornings are relevant and impactful to everyone, but they're done through the lens of those folks who are unchurched or de-churched. That everything we do is evaluated through the grid of those who are unchurched and de-churched. And I know that's sometimes hard to understand. It's hard to necessarily explain, or people kind of go, okay, I'm trying to understand, what does that mean? Think about it like this. If you were to host a Super Bowl party today and you were to have a bunch of people that you know over to your house to watch the game, okay? Most people that you invite over know one another because they've either been to your house or they're already friends with one another, but you have one person that shows up to your house to watch the game that you invited from work, and they don't know anybody else at your house. What do you do in that moment? What do you do in that moment? I mean, do you let them just sit by themselves on a chair while everybody else has a good time and enjoys the game and this person is just sitting alone on an island? Hopefully not. Hopefully you're a better host than that. Most likely what you do is you recognize this guy doesn't know everybody. He doesn't know anybody but me, and so you do everything in your power to include and connect this person into the group. And so you go around and you introduce this person one at a time to everybody in the room. You give them some context about the person that you're introducing them to. You kind of try to steer conversations away from inside jokes because you don't want this person to feel like, what am I even doing here? I don't fit in here. I don't belong here. And so you do everything in your power because you're sensitive to the fact that this person is interested in the game, but they don't know the environment. And so when we do our Sunday morning services, we want to keep that in the forefront of our minds. We want you to have the courage to invite your coworker, invite your friend, invite your spouse, invite that person to church that wouldn't normally come. And we want you to have the courage to invite them and know when you invite them that we've already expected them to be here. And that when they come in, they have a sense of, wow, they didn't take for granted that I knew everybody they talked about. They didn't use these inside jokes. They didn't take for granted that I knew that Bible story or I knew what they talked about last week, that they take me into account. They expected me to be here. And our Sunday morning services, everything we do, again, if it's done through the lens of those who are unchurched or de-churched, we think about and evaluate things differently than maybe other churches will. We think about our content and we evaluate our content and the songs that we sing, and we say to ourselves, listen, even if they don't believe what I believe, do they get this? Does the music at least sound like something that they would have heard before? Is the content helpful? Even if they don't believe what I believe, is it helpful? Do they walk out saying, I'm not sure what I believe about the whole Jesus, the whole Bible thing. I'm not really sure I'm down with that, but if I did that in my marriage, would my marriage be better? Because I believe what Jesus has to say is truth, and truth is truth. They don't have to believe what I believe yet. Or maybe if they said, if I applied that to my finances, would my financial situation be different? If I acted that way, would I be a better man? Would I be a better woman? Would I be a better mom? Would I be a better dad? Would I be a better spouse? The answer to those questions is yes. And so we want to make sure that our content is helpful. And so we do take a lot of energy and a lot of focus in making sure that our Sunday morning services are the best they possibly can be. And that's not to say that we always get it right. I mean, we're very hard on ourselves. There's times that we've tried to do things in a creative context that's just flopped. And that's okay, as long as we're honest enough to kind of take it, learn from it, and move forward and continue to do our very best to build an irresistible Sunday morning service, and we'll continue to do that. The second thing is our children's ministry. And I can't say this enough. Bridge Kids is not the kids' table while the parents eat, okay? Like our children's ministry is a ministry. And I'm so proud of the men and women and the students who week after week after week serve our children, build into the lives of our children, and impact the lives of our children on a weekly basis. I'm incredibly proud of them. I love going home on Sunday mornings and flipping on, going onto Facebook or social media, Instagram, and I go through and I see pictures that some of our volunteers are posting of the fun that they're having. Because that's a big part of what Sunday Morning for Bridge Kids is all about. They have three things as a ministry that they use to evaluate everything that they do. It's this: we want to make it fun, we want to make it true, and we want to make it stick. That's what Bridge Kids focuses on every Sunday morning. We want to make it fun, make it true, and make it stick. And I'm so proud of our teams that week after week do that in the lives of our kids. They make it fun, they're having fun, but it's with a point. And everything that they do is pointed to a truth that they're talking about that day, and they make it stick. And if you volunteer in that area in any capacity, well done. I'm so incredibly proud of you. They're doing a great job. And, I don't know many kids that get, frustrated or annoyed when school is canceled because of a snow day. I don't know if any of you have kids that get upset when there's a snow day. But 2 weeks ago, when we had to cancel our Sunday morning services because of the weather, I had one parent show me a video on their phone where their little daughter said to me, Scott, can't we just have little church? Like, is there something, can you give us like just a carrot, like a little something? We just need a little fix at church. And I was like, man, look, this kid just wants a little bit of church, man. That's amazing. I had another couple that told me their kids literally broke down crying when they were told there was no church. Why would they react that way? They react that way because there are men and women in this room. There are men and women and students down the hall right now impacting the lives of kids. And the kids know it, they see it, and they value it. And that's why building that wing is so incredibly important, and that's why we continue to pay for it today. It's not because we have a nice, colorful wing. It's because it's an opportunity, it's an environment that you have helped create where our children are being invested in, and it's incredibly powerful. I say that it's more than just making it fun, and it's more than colors and all those neat things. I had breakfast recently with a businessman in our church. He started attending our church this past Easter, so not that long. And in fact, he, believe it or not, was completely unchurched, never been to church in his life, but some things that happened in his circumstances in his family, and so they just had this sense of going to church, and so they showed up at the bridge on Easter Sunday, and they've been coming ever since. And so I'm sitting having breakfast with this gentleman, and he's sharing with me his story. Right? He's sharing his story and he says, Scott, I got to tell you, this thing happened in our family this past summer. And I said, yeah, tell me about it. And so he goes on, he says, so I'm having this barbecue where I've invited over a bunch of investors for this business opportunity. So there's all these wealthy guys and their families at his house for a pool party barbecue. And he said, for the first time in my life, I felt completely out of water. I was in a completely different situation that normally would be normal to me, but for the first time in my life was different. See, as I started coming to church and I've been hearing about Jesus and his plan for my life and wanting to use my gifts and my talents, I'm beginning to see this business world that I'm in differently. And so for the first time, I have all these people who I know, but they know me in a different context. And now I'm like, how do I be this Christian person in this world that I've been in so long and operated in a different way? And so he was really conflicted, and he's sitting, flipping stuff on the barbecue, having this inner dialogue with himself. And just before he served the food, his 8-year-old daughter pipes up, and she calls out to everybody, would everybody like to pray? And this guy's sitting there going, my kid just threw me under the bus. Like, what am I going to do? Like he's thinking, okay, what do I do in this moment? This is really weird. He didn't do anything. His 8-year-old daughter goes around and gets all of these wealthy businessmen together and has them hold hands in a circle. And she prays over the meal. And here's this man in this moment whose faith has grown, his hope, his belief, his trust, and how he sees God in the context of his world has changed. Not because of something that he heard in here, but because something his daughter heard down there. See, she later was talking with her dad, and he said, where did that come from? Don't ever do that to me again. And she says, well, we were talking in Bridge Kids that we should have the courage to stand up for what we believe in no matter who we're around. And here's this guy going, wow. He learned something from his kid because of what we as a church have invested in his kid down there. I'm so proud of us as a church for the bridges that we build and the focus that we have. And children's ministry is not babysitting. We're investing in the lives of young people who are going to take the name of Jesus to places I will never preach. And I'm so proud of us for doing it. The third thing is our student ministry. And you know this is such a critical, crucial age. It's a crucial ministry. Those of us as adults, you know this, a lot of the things that we value the most, some of our greatest regrets happen in our teen years, right? If you have ever looked back at pictures of what you wore in 1996, right? Those of us, like, it's scary to think what we lived like. And I look at the students in our world today and the students that I'm around on a regular basis, and I see them constantly looking down for their value. I see them constantly with their head down and they're tuned in looking for their value and their sense of worth based on how many followers they have. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to see students constantly looking for validation as to who likes or hearts their picture. And as a ministry, as a church, I want us to build a student ministry where we flip the script on that painful reality in the lives of our students. That my hope is that as we build a student ministry where young people can come and engage and connect and find community and love, my hope is that they will find that their value isn't found in how many followers they have, but it's found in who they follow. And I long for our students to discover that in their life. That we as a ministry and through our church, we want to help them lift up their head and lift up their eyes and open up their heart and see that they were created for and are overflowing with purpose and worth and value. And it has nothing to do with what they look like when they flip their camera to their face. It has everything to do with who God created them to be and that He wants them to flourish as who they are. Let's build that in the lives of our students. Let's do it together. The next thing is our small group ministry. And this is so important that the goal for our small group ministry is not to create pockets of people where they're committed to getting through a list of questions in a study. That we want to have everyone in our church, not just adults. We want our children and our teenagers and every adult of every age to be in a group where you find yourself surrounded with people who are committed to helping you live the life, live the story that you want to tell. That getting through a study almost becomes secondary to what's happening in the lives of the people that gather together. That you have a group of people in your life that can talk real and ask real questions and that can drill down and can ask how you're really doing. That you can have a group of people in your life who know you for who and where you really are. This isn't Cheers, okay? I can't create a place where everybody knows your name, but my hope is that we can create a place where every name is known. That you're known for who and where you are in your life, and you're loved by a group of people, not everybody in here, but you're loved by a group of people who love and accept you for where you are, but they love you so much that they refuse to let you stay there. And that you'll find that community and you'll find that sense of care, and every single person, young or old, will have that sense of community in their lives. I long to see that because you need that in your life and I need it in mine. And I long to see that happen for you and for me. And as we do that, we will be a church of small groups, not a church with small groups. That we will be a church of small groups. That our children's ministry, as it already operates right now, Bridge Kids breaks out on Sunday mornings into small group time. And in our student ministry, they start off with a big teaching time, but they break up into groups and they get connected with a leader who loves them and sees them week after week after week. And we hope that happens in your life and in mine as well, that every single one of us will have a group of people and we will be a church of small groups, not a church with them. And lastly, we said, on missions. That missions is a priority to us, and as Alan prayed this morning, we're really excited about sending a team off to Nicaragua this next week, and then a team to Haiti in just a little bit longer. 2 mission trips in just the span of 6 weeks or so. I mean, it's incredible, and as a church, we've always been focused and committed to missions, and we're going to continue to do that. But my hope as we move forward and as we go into our tomorrow, that we won't just have a mindset for missions for a small group or a small population of our church. Because the truth is, if you ask everybody in this room what they think of when they think of missions, there's going to be a number of different answers. I mean, if you ask anybody that's going to this Nicaragua trip or going to Haiti, if you ask them about missions, they're going to have a completely different response than somebody who's never gone on a trip like that. But my hope is that as we go to tomorrow, that we wouldn't just have a mission mindset in the people that have gone or are going on these trips, that every single one of us would have a missions mindset. Because we have to have that mindset if we're going to be building bridges between Jesus and those folks who don't know him yet. Whether it's around the world or right here in our community, every single one of us needs to get to the place where we have a missions mindset, because that's the mindset of Jesus. And the goal for us is that we would all become more like him, that we would all become more of a disciple. And so this is a huge part of who we are, that like we saw in the life of the disciples last week, we need to leverage everything we have in order to meet the needs of those around us. We just have to. It's so easy to get inward focused and become isolated in our own mindset and what's in it for us, but we need to see beyond ourselves and get into that place where we create and cultivate that culture where we see the needs of other people. So short-term missions is going to be a thing that we're going to continue to invest in. However, it's going to be a part of a larger initiative. See, rather than dropping into a community for a week here and there, my hope is that we're going to get to the place where we invest in a community for a long, extended period of time. It might be 5 years, it might be 10 years, but rather than dropping in for 7 days, we're going to drop into a community for the long haul. And we're going to send our teams to the same place time after time after time, and our teams will build those relationships with the people on the ground, and in turn, we're going to do our part to build a relationship with us here. And what I mean by that is, we might not just send teams there, but from time to time, we may bring people from there to here, to share with us and to teach us and to learn and show us things. And from time to time, we may FaceTime with the people on the ground there and just say, hey, what's going on today? How are you guys doing? Maybe we'll pray with them, or we'll just kind of hear some stories about what's going on down there. It will be incredible as we build this long-term relationship so that they won't just see 6 of us once a year. They'll see 600 of us. And they'll know that they're loved and supported and cared for and prayed for by a group so much bigger than the ones that we've been able to send. So missions is going to continue to be a huge portion of what we do. And it won't just be impacting a community somewhere around the world. We're going to continue to do everything we can to impact our communities right here. We've invested and are going to continue to invest in some amazing organizations that we support in our local community. We're going to continue to do that. But once a year, we're going to take it up a notch. We're going to take it up a notch, and once a year for 7 days, 1 week, we are going to mobilize our entire church for 7 days, and we're going to go out into our community, and we're going to love our community together. That we're going to go out and focus for 7 days and do all we can to love our community. As an example, in the year 2020, we might say that our goal in 2020 for these next 7 days is to give $20,000 and 2,000 service hours to our community. We're going to mobilize our entire church to accomplish that. We're going to go together. That we're going to create that culture and celebrate it. What does that look like? I don't know yet. I'm excited to find out. It may be that a family in our church says, you know what, as a family, we're going to get up on Saturday morning and we're going to, bake some homemade cookies and make some homemade cards, and then we're going to go out Saturday morning to all of our neighbors and we're going to give them out and just say, hey, we love you guys. What does it cost to bake some cookies? I don't know, $25? Homemade cards, $15? Getting your family up and doing something together with $40, you can write a check to an organization, but when you take that $40 and you take your kids and you do something and you go out into your neighborhood and you love your neighbors, that bridge that you've built, that mindset that you've built in you, and that experience that you've built for your kids is priceless. It's worth way more than $40. What would happen if we as an entire church mobilized to love our communities? It's going to be amazing. Maybe our student ministry is going to go rake some leaves for some folks. Maybe on Halloween, you're going to open up the garage door, and while your kids are out freeloading candy from your neighbors, maybe their kids will come over to get candy from you, but you'll also have coffee that you hand out to their parents. That we as a church, we won't be a church that just funds missions. We'll be a church that does missions. That as a church, we're going to mobilize and create and cultivate that culture that we're seeing beyond ourselves, and we're seeing beyond what just happens in here, and we're going to take it out there. We're going to do it. We're going to go together. Wow, can't wait to be a part of that. So these are the 5 things that we have focused on as a church over the last number of years, and we're going to continue to focus our efforts, our energies, our resources into those things. But as I look at this list, and as I pray about the future, and as I dream about the future, as we plan for the future, I'm compelled to make a change to this list. And I'm not compelled to subtract from this list because I believe wholeheartedly in everything that we've chosen to focus on. I am, however, compelled to add something to this list. And that's young adult ministry. Young adult ministry. There is a millennial generation out there today that is longing for community and purpose. And it breaks my heart to think that they would find it anywhere outside the walls of the local church. As I look at a millennial generation looking for community and purpose, it breaks my heart to think they would find it in anyone other than Jesus Christ. We need to do all we can to build bridges to and for this generation. We need to leverage our gifts, our talents, our resources, everything that we have to help build a bridge between Jesus and this generation. I go to Starbucks believe it or not. I go to Starbucks at the Canadian Tire gas bar over here. I try to go to the same one as often as I can. And more often than not, people laugh at me all the time. They say, Scott, why don't you just go through the drive-thru? I mean, it's a whole lot faster. Why don't you just go through the drive-thru? Why do you always go in? And then I go in, and they know me. And they know me, and they're like, hey, Scott, how's it going? And oftentimes I'll even get my coffee for free. I'll sit around and talk for a few minutes, and they know me. And it's interesting, especially when I go in with people who I'm meeting for, like a conversation or, a coffee chat or whatever. And they're like, man, everybody knows you in here. Yeah, and they're like, man, why is that? I'm like, it's not just because I'm in here so much. It's because I'm in here so much. And what I mean by that is I choose to go in there. I make a conscious decision to go in there because, if I can be quite frank with you, I'm a professional Christian. I spend 99% of my time with church people. So this is like my one opportunity to be in the world, to go out and build relationships, rub shoulders, have conversations with people who are unchurched or de-churched. And so I want to take that opportunity to build and invest in these lives and these relationships. And so I go in there and I'll talk with them. And I go in there, and over time, my hope is that I can earn the opportunity to talk to them about life, that I can earn the opportunity to talk to them about their life. And there have been so many times on their own breaks or after they finish their shift that I've sat down with some of them and just talked to them. They know who I am. They know what I do. More importantly, they know who I and what I believe in. And I'm able to talk to them because I built that relationship. And listen, friends, there is a generation of young people out there today who are unchurched, and I want them here. There is a generation of young people that are unchurched, who have walked away from the church, who have walked away from their faith, and I want them back. And I need your help. I can't do it. It's not in me to do it in and of myself. But if we go together, if we leverage all of our talents and all of our gifts and all of our resources and energy, I believe that we can build a bridge between Jesus Christ and an entire generation in our community. So these are the 6 things that as a church we will focus on as we move forward to our tomorrow. We're going to build with everything that we can to build the momentum and build the movement of what's happening here, and then we're going to take it away from here. That as we build up what happens here, we're going to take it to them. That we're going to take what we do here and we're going to export it and have a satellite campus somewhere else in the greater Ottawa Valley. We've been talking about this for a long time. Many of you have heard us talk about this, but I'm so excited to tell you that I believe in late 2021 or early 2022, we will be ready to launch our first satellite campus. And so much so that there's someone coming on staff in the future here that this is going to be part of his or her portfolio, that they're going to begin with research and development. And over time, it's going to get to the place where they identify a launch location and then identify a launch team. And hopefully, as I said, by late 2021 or early 2022, we will be able to send off a team of people to take what God is doing in our midst to somewhere else. I mean, just thinking about it, I got to be honest, the hairs, let's just say I get really excited just thinking about it. I mean, I've only had one coffee this morning, and just thinking about our tomorrow, it just gets me so excited because I believe wholeheartedly in what we can do. But at the same time, it's a little scary, and I get that. The unknown is scary. I'm excited, really beyond thrilled to tell you this morning about an opportunity that came to us not that long ago. I had a call from the folks at Connexus Church in Barrie. Some of you have heard of the name Carey Nieuwhof. He's one of Canada's, known church leaders. He's a best-selling author. He's got a, podcast that everybody seems to listen to. Carey's an incredible leader, and he started Connexus Church, and then he moved into a different role in his own church and became simply the teaching pastor, and they've hired someone else named Jeff Brody as the lead pastor. And as a church, they've moved from one location into 3, and they're in the process of opening a few more. And so they're doing this incredible work in the Barrie and surrounding areas. And so, believe it or not, they called me and they said, hey, we've had a couple people come by our church who used to attend your church who have moved to our area, and they've told us about what you're doing there. And it sounds like we have a lot of things in common. Tell us about what's going on in Canada. And so I shared with them, what's going on, where we're going, what we're trying to do. And we just, over a few discussions, he said, hey, would you guys be interested in partnering with us? And I said, well, what is that? And he said, well, basically, we have 4 churches right now, and we're looking to add 1 or 2 more, and that's all we're going to do. And we're going to invest and help and equip and train and resource these churches that have the same passion, the same heartbeat as us, to help them go farther, faster. And I said, so literally what you're asking us to do is to carpool with you? You want to help us go farther, faster? And so we began talking about this. And I'm so excited to tell you that after numerous discussions with Connexus Church that we have come on as a partner church to them, doesn't mean we're going to be Connexus Church. It means they're going to help us be more of what we want to do here. They're going to train, equip, and resource us. Our teams will be able to get training from their teams. We'll be able to build into our leadership from resourcing their leadership. This is an incredible opportunity that we are one of only 5 churches in all of Canada that have this partnership. They are going to help us go farther, faster because of our connection, because of our relationship, because we choose to carpool with them. I'm so incredibly excited about our tomorrow. Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. But here's the thing, and here's what I know. I know that I can share with you and try to pour out my heart and tell you where we're going, but the big question is, will we actually get there? I get that because there's an unknown in the air. And unknowns create stress, unknowns create anxiety. It's hard to see what you can't see. It's hard to, decorate a house that you've never been in, right? It's just difficult. And I want you to know that I get that. Believe it or not, I truly get that as much as I believe with all of my heart in where we're going, and I believe in how we're going to go about getting there, it's still unknown. Are we actually going to see it? Is it actually going to happen for us? And my answer is yes, it will. And I believe it with all of my heart. I believe it with all of my heart. And as I'm working harder than I've ever worked in my life, I'm praying more and harder than I've ever prayed in my life. I've networked like I've never networked before. I've interviewed more people than I can tell you because I believe so much is riding in this next chapter of our ministry here at the Bridge. I'm thrilled to tell you that, hopefully by the end of February, 1st of March, I'll be able to introduce you to the team that'll be working here for the next chapter, the ministry of the Bridge. We're in finalizing, all the ins and outs and the details of that. It's going to be exciting to kind of reveal to you these faces that are right now unknown. And that's hard to kind of imagine what the future looks like when you don't even know who's around. And I get that. So I'm excited to share that with you. But more than any of it, there's a bigger question, because more than what does it look like, what it looks like is going to change. It's just going to change because the model always changes. The mission should never, and our mission never will. But the model will change because times require change. So it's not about what it looks like, and it's not even about who are the staff, because staffs change. Staffs come and go. Those aren't the issues. The big question, as we conclude this series, the big question, the most important question above any other question is simply this: are you in? That's the question. Are you in? I'm not asking whether or not you're going to take from the Bridge. I'm not asking if you're going to take from, the ministries and use them. I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you're in. Are you going to invest in? Are you going to engage with? Are you going to do all you can to help us build bridges between Jesus and those who are unchurched and dechurched? I can't do it on my own. As a staff, we won't be able to do it on our own. The advisory team and the finance team, and we're not able to do it on our own. We need you. There are some committed people that are working behind the scenes tirelessly as we move forward. I'm so proud of our advisory team and our finance team. They have prayed, thought, inquired, questioned, advised, gone through the gamut a number of times. And as we look forward to our tomorrow, we're also trying to plan for what's unknown. So as we've been advised, we're actually planning on preparing a budget in our next year with a 10% reduction from our last year. That as we look forward, we're actually trying to plan, but it's hard to plan with the unknown. So we're saying we're planning and preparing to experience a 10% cut to our ministry budget. And I think it's prudent to do so, but I believe that if we go together, I believe that if you come with us, our future's in the black. And I believe that we can plan and prepare for the worst, but I believe if you come with us, the best is yet to come. So the question isn't what does it look like, and the question isn't who's going to pay for it, and the question isn't what's going to sound like and who's going to be here. And the question is, are you in? Imagine this place 5 years from now if we go together. Imagine what we'll experience. My guess is it'll be something similar to what those disciples who fed 5,000 people with a few pieces of bread and a few fish experienced. When the miracle in their midst happened and they just found themselves looking to the heavens going, this guy is amazing. What would it look like 5 years from now if we go together. I believe with all of my heart that we'll experience that same sense of awe and wonder at who Jesus is and what Jesus can do in and through his people when they go together.